Okay, so here we are going to start looking at how you can import a picture file and build a SolidWorks file off of that picture. Very useful concept, and it'll be useful for your homework where we're going to laser cut a part file. It'll allow you to become a little more creative. So first thing you want to do is you need to open a part file. So we'll open a part file. We need to start a new sketch. And I've got a whole bunch of toolbars freaking out here. We'll just turn those off. We need to start a new sketch. So go to the sketch tool on the command manager. We'll go to the top plane. And then we need to go online and find a picture of something we want to sketch. Just going to check and make sure VLC is still going. So let's go online. And let's, since we're here at grand old CU, let's look for CU logo. There's Ralphie. Let's grab this Ralphie here. We'll save Ralphie to the desktop. And let's, alright, now here's where you're going to go to Tools. My SolidWorks doesn't like to wake up in the morning. Sketch Tools and Sketch Picture. And it's going to ask you to find that picture. And now it's inserted. Now you'll notice over here the dimensions of this box are 10 by 7, which may be okay, may not. We, ostensibly we're going to make this on our 6 by 6 inch plastic pieces in the laser cutter, so we're going to want this to be smaller than 6 by 6. So I'm going to drag this and look at the numbers on the left until I've got it down to something like, I don't know, 4.5 inches right here. Okay, I like that. Now, if I'm to look at this, there's a few different ways to sketch this. The first way, one way is they have an auto-complete in SolidWorks. I found that it doesn't work well at all, ever. So I kind of don't like to use that. The first thing we could do is we can use lines. And lines would work really well for the CU here. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of that line. What they won't work so well for, at least on Ralphie, is the outside. But let's just say we're going to use that and kind of outline Ralphie this way. Now you got to make sure that these lines are coincident, that they all touch each other. And in order to make this a part, you would have to extrude this, so it's got to they've got to be closed loops. Now, I don't know if you saw what I just did there, but SolidWorks was kind of guessing for me and changed to a circular tool when it saw kind of a circular pattern. So if you kind of hover around and see what SolidWorks has in mind, sometimes that can help you out. Alright, in the interest of time, I'm going to make my Ralphie not quite as good as it could be. Use a few less lines. And I'm going to close the contour, so we've got to get all the way to the end. There we go. I'll escape. Then I can take this picture back here and I can delete it. Kind of wanted to hide it. I think you can do that. But I'm going to go ahead and delete this for now. And there's my little Ralphie. I can exit the sketch, and then I can go to my features and extrude my Ralphie. And let's say we want him to be 1/4 inch. And we've got a error here. Looks like it showed me the error up here. Yeah, see how it's not a closed contour? That's not going to work. So we have to go back into the sketch, edit sketch, and we're going to pick that little guy there and delete him. And let's see if that makes our extruded boss a little happier. So we'll select the sketch and extrude it. And let's make it 1/4 inch because that's what our plastic is. And there's our little Ralphie. So now that's a part that you can machine. Now you'll notice, because we drew this, kind of haphazardly with lines, you've got this kind of faceted thing going on here. And in the laser cutter or the milling machine, they're precise enough that you're going to see those facets. Now there's some things you can do to that. You can go ahead and put a fillet feature on those lines, and you could smooth that out. That's one way to do it. So there's one way to import a picture. Check the VLC is still happy. It is. Now let's try another way. Alright, so I'm going to open up a new part file. And I'm going to open up a sketch. And again, tools, sketch, tools, sketch picture. I'm going to grab my little Ralphie, size him, or her actually, our real Ralphie's a girl. Now we want to do a little bit better job and not get that faceted block look. So what we can do is use a sketch tool called Splines. It's right here. And you see there's a couple of options here. We're going to use the regular spline option. Now you can pull as many points as you want, and you can try and fit the spline to multiple curves. But I found that splines work the best, and they're the easiest to work with if you stay with one entity or curve, and make 2 points with that curve, the endpoints of which are at the kind of where the curve decides to take a corner and start into a new curve. So for example, let's do Ralphie's back. I wouldn't try and span this curve and that curve. You can fit a spline to it, and it'll curve through there. But I found it comes out much better if you use just 2 points. So we'll use these 2 points. Hit escape. You see that it's put in a spline, but it looks like a line right now. But if you click that line, it's really a spline, and it's hard to see, but you can see a little diamond here and a little arrow with a point here. There's one on this side for this point, and a diamond here and an arrow here on this side for this point. You can drag these 4 entities to make your spline fit. So these little diamonds kind of determine the curvature of the spline. You see I'm dragging as much as I can, and it's not quite doing what I want it to do. And that's where you can go to the other side of the spline and drag him. And the arrows allow you to pull that so that this curvature can change in a different way. And you see how I'm getting a much better fit to my Ralphie back there. And then we can try and pull that, and maybe pull this arrow back a little bit. And then you can play around with this until you're completely satisfied. You see you get a much better fit there. Okay, and then you can continue on with more splines here. So in this case, we might fit a spline to her whole face, or just to this half. It's up to you. You can pull a 3-point spline like that, they're just a little bit harder to manipulate. You get more arrows, so it's a little trickier to do, but it can be done. Let's see, we can do that. All right, so the one thing you need to make sure of is to extrude this into a part. All these splines have to be closed, so these endpoints have to be coincident with each other and no open or left open geometry, and then it'll extrude. Now, we probably wouldn't use a spline for the letters because they're very block. You'd want to keep them straight, so that's where you'd use your line tools or your circle tools or those other tools. So that's kind of how you use the spline tools to and importing pictures to get you some more creative part designs. Let's see. Anything else here? Yes, one last thing. Let's go ahead and close this out. We're done with this Ralphie. Check that VLC is still happy. It is. Okay, one other idea. Let's do another one. Let's go into Sketch, and we'll go to Tools, Sketch Tools, Sketch Picture. I've got another picture. This one, you might recognize it. It's about lunchtime. 9 by 9. Let's go ahead and pull that down to underneath our 6 inches. Now in this case I'd like to use splines as well, but not everywhere, so these shapes here are very flat, so go ahead and make some flat shapes there. I'm not going to finish this off on purpose, and I'll show you why in a second. So some pictures, unlike our Ralphie, have some symmetry. So if I was to use my spline tool, which I want to use to make this work, you can see I'm kind of fitting the shape. We'll play with that a little bit. Probably need to make these about the same. Anyway, that's close enough. And then I'll just make one other spline here. You see how SolidWorks has snapped me a relation vertical with that bottom line. That's good. I probably want that. And we'll go ahead and start messing around with this spline here. In the interest of time, we won't make it perfect. It's probably good there. And it's not perfect, but it's good enough. Now, you see how I'm dragging these splines. If I was to drag these splines, I'm not going to be able to drag them in exactly the same way as I drag these splines. But there's symmetry here. We want them to be the same. So one thing we can do is we can mirror these over here, and then they'll be exactly the same on both sides. Excuse me. So to do that, I want to draw in a little center line feature here. We can delete this later. And I want to go ahead and hit mirror entities. It's here in your sketch tools. And then let's pick all the entities I wanted to mirror, which were the 2 splines and the 2 bottom pieces. I want to copy it. I don't want to move it. So I want that checked, and I want to mirror it about this center line I drew in there. You can see the preview. I like the preview, and then I check select. So if you have symmetries in your pictures, consider using mirror. You can also use other sketch tools such as offset entities or linear patterns or other types of circular patterns to complete sketches that have some symmetry. All right, that concludes this lecture.